Good afternoon. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for coming out today as we travel the state and meet with local leaders to discuss our continued response and recovery from Hurricane Zeta. Just a few moments ago, I had an opportunity to meet with many of the local members of the legislature, but also parish presidents from St. Tammany. Mike Cooper, who's with us here today, Jefferson Parish, Cynthia Lee Shang, she's with us and will speak in a minute. The New Orleans Mayor, Latoya Cantrell. We also had Guy McGinnis, who was parish president of St. Bernard, and we were able to have a very good conversation. As you can imagine, the damage assessments for Hurricane Zeta are preliminary, and the biggest challenge we have is restoration of electricity. And certainly I don't have a whole lot of information on that particular timeline. Today is the first day after the hurricane, and those damage assessments are ongoing, and repairs are actually being made as well, but it'll be some time before all of that is complete. We also have Congressman Garrett Graves, who's traveling with us today, and he may join us in just a moment, and if he does, he may speak to you. As you all probably know by now, Hurricane Zeta made landfall in Cochrane yesterday right at 4 p.m. and it had maximum sustained winds of 110 miles per hour. That is literally the strongest possible Category 2 hurricane you can have, because 1 mile per hour more would make it a Category 3. The good news is the storm's forward speed was 24 miles per hour. And so it moved through the area much faster than most storms. And as a result, it didn't drop as much rain. The high winds didn't pound the area for as long as would have otherwise been the case. However, there's significant damage to homes, to businesses, to infrastructure across Southeast Louisiana. We know that it caused things like vessels to be thrown about and into bridges that have to be inspected, and damage has to be repaired. All of those things went on. I do want to thank everybody for their work today, because all across Southeast Louisiana we have seen people being good neighbors to one another, taking care of individuals. And while the weather today is very nice, it's beautiful, the coolest weather of the year thus far, I can tell you that today is not the day, and tomorrow is not going to be the day either, to go out and engage in sightseeing. Because we need for these linemen who are in Southeast Louisiana by the thousands, they've got to be able to get to their work so that they can get these lines off of roads. We need to be able to get first responders where they need to go. The National Guard folks need to be able to do that. So we're asking people to please make sure you're not out engaged in sightseeing. Also want to remind everybody that it's not the storm principally that causes folks to be hurt or killed. It's the immediate aftermath, when the cleanup starts, and when people run generators and so forth. So really asking everybody to be cautious. If you don't have electricity, you're going to run a generator, please locate that generator at least 20 feet outside of your home in a well-ventilated area, not near a window or a vent, not in a crawl space, not in a garage, not in your home for sure, and allow that generator to cool down for at least 20 minutes before you refuel it. Also asking people to make sure that you have a working smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm in your home with fresh batteries. And if you're going to use a space heater, because it's going to be relatively cool over the next few nights, make sure you don't place that within 3 feet of anything that is combustible. Also, with respect to safety, if you don't know and aren't experienced in using chainsaws and cutting up trees, please be very, very careful and try not to do that if you can avoid it. And then the other thing is, we have a power outage in a number of areas in Southeast Louisiana, and traffic signals are out. And while traffic signals are out, those intersections are to be treated as four-way stops, whether or not there is a temporary stop sign there. So we're urging everybody to slow down and to make sure that you are engaging in these measures with respect to stopping at these intersections. And we're going to try to make sure that we get temporary signs up where we can at the biggest intersections, but we know that there have been a number of accidents because of this already. Roughly half of Southeast Louisiana experienced sustained tropical storm force winds yesterday. Many in the path experienced very damaging hurricane force winds, and those within a narrow path around and principally to the east of Zeta's eye wall experienced the very worst that storm had to offer. Power outages were extensive, in fact remain extensive. I know that as of noon today there were 457,000 outages remaining in Southeast Louisiana. We do have more than 5,500 linemen who are working on this problem, and we have more that will be coming in over the course of the weekend. Oddly enough, they had responded to power outages in other states because of ice, and so they're coming back from Texas as we speak. Tomorrow, principally because of the power outages that remain, there will be 8 parishes with office closures. Those are Jefferson, Lafourche, Orleans, Plaquemine, St. Bernard, St. Tammany, and Terrebonne Parish. We did have, very sadly, our first and thus far our only confirmed death from Hurricane Zeta last evening. It was a 55-year-old gentleman in Orleans Parish who was electrocuted by a downed power line. So I'm going to pause again and urge everyone to treat every downed power line as if it is live with electricity. Obviously this is sad and tragic, and certainly we should lift this gentleman's family up in our prayers. The National Guard currently has 1,940 soldiers and airmen on duty, activated to support emergency operations, the immediate response, and later the recovery from this, the damage caused by this hurricane. Urban search and rescue operations are underway across the damaged area. Grand Isle has reported 3 breaches along its levee on the Gulf side of the island, and the CPRA is down there now assessing damage. When this press conference is over, I'll be flying to Grand Isle, and President Cynthia Lee Shang will be joining me for that trip, where we can meet with Mayor Carmondale, other local officials, and also hopefully the Corps of Engineers to discuss the repairs to that levee. Pumps are on site in Grand Isle to assist in dewatering efforts. The CPRA is tracking 689 gates across the coastal zone. 319 of those remain closed, and a number of floodgates will begin reopening today as the conditions allow. There are currently 22 state roadways that are closed due to water or debris. I'm encouraging everybody, if you need to be out and about, please go to 511la.org. You will get real-time information about road conditions and whether certain highways are closed. DOTD crews are out assessing damage across the highway system in Southeast Louisiana. There could be additional closures, and inspections of bridges are occurring as well. So we're asking you not to go out if you can avoid it, but if you do, please check 511la.org. We still have individuals from Southwest Louisiana who've been sheltering, principally in the greater New Orleans area. There are 3,394 Louisianans being sheltered last night. That includes 76 Hurricane Zeta evacuees. They are all in local parish-operated shelters. There are 6 of those. 3,162 were Hurricane Laura evacuees. There are 3,060 of those are in 7 hotels, 5 of which are in New Orleans, 1 in Baton Rouge, and 1 in Lafayette. There are still 102 evacuees in the Alexandria Mega Shelter, and that includes the medical special needs shelter. And with respect to Hurricane Delta, we're down to 156 evacuees sheltered. 153 of those are in New Orleans at a hotel. So altogether there are 6 hotels operating as non-congregant shelters in New Orleans for evacuees from Southwest Louisiana. With so many people without power, it's really important that we focus on the election next week. And so we have an election task force that is looking at all the polling places that are without power today, and as well as registrar of voters offices and clerks of courts offices. We're working with the Secretary of State, the Public Service Commission, and all the electricity providers in this area, so we can prioritize restoration to those sites and then make a judgment early as to whether or not power will be restored, so there's time to come up with an alternate location for that site, and in time to communicate that to the voters. So we always ask citizens to be weather aware, to pay attention to their local elected officials and heed whatever guidance they're given, but and that's always the case. In addition to all of the things we normally do, we need you doing that with respect to this election too. So if you didn't vote early, if you haven't cast that mail ballot, you plan to vote in person on election day, we need you paying attention, and we're going to get you that information just as soon as we possibly can. Due to Hurricane Zeta, drive-through COVID test sites operated by the National Guard were closed today in New Orleans and in Baton Rouge, Acadiana on the North Shore. We expect all those sites to be back up and operational tomorrow, so we're encouraging everybody to be mindful of that and to avail yourself of those testing opportunities should you need to do so. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do to continue to recover from this hurricane, and I want to thank all the local elected officials who are here today and others across Southeast Louisiana for the work that they've been doing. It's been tremendous. And I want to thank the folks from FEMA, because we've actually been traveling with the administrator from FEMA Region 6 out of Texas, Tony Robinson, today. The administrator for FEMA will be in the New Orleans and Jefferson Parish areas tomorrow. We'll have an opportunity to visit with him. So I'm going to ask the parish presidents to come up now, followed by Congressman Graves, and then we'll take a few questions on the back side of their remarks. But thank you all very much again for covering this particular event.
Thank you so much, Governor. We in Jefferson Parish are very blessed that we did not have any fatalities with this storm. And as the governor said, we want to maintain that. We want people to be safe post-storm. There's a lot of hazards out in the community, many kinds of ways to hurt yourself. We want to get through this storm with minimal injuries and no deaths. So many things happen. We spent this morning, I spoke to all the mayors. All of our team spent this morning really assessing when the sun came up. As the governor said, we've had breaches in Grand Isle. That's a very vulnerable area for us. We're going to go and assess that damage. Last night in Lafitte, there was a casino boat that hit the swing bridge. Those repairs have been made, so I want to thank all the agencies that helped us with that, and that bridge is now operational. In the greater area for Jefferson Parish, probably I visited them this morning, the biggest incident was a structural collapse of an apartment complex. Both walls that were facing each other collapsed during the storm. We're very fortunate that a small child, a beautiful child, was right by the window, and the parents were able to grab this beautiful baby beforehand. We sent teams out to that building, so there was about 25 people that stayed at King's Grant last night and sheltered there. We are going through the building today and emptying the building of the remaining residents because we don't believe the buildings are stable, and we're currently spending time right now getting them in hotel rooms temporarily until we can find they can be resettled. So that was probably the biggest structural damage in the metropolitan area. And we've also dealt with some house fires. Our first responder agencies was at the EOC all night dealing with a lot of things. In Jefferson Parish, we currently have about 172,000 customers without power. That represents over 80% of the customers. I'm getting lots of calls and lots of texts about how they don't have a bucket truck on their neighborhood yet. So let's let Entergy do their job. Let's let them do their job as efficiently as that can, which means that you don't see a bucket truck in front of your house right away, that they're doing a system-wide assessment. They know how to do it the most efficiently as possible to get the most number of customers online. Certainly, their priority is hospitals, nursing homes, first responder agencies. Our water plant is on backup power, so those critical infrastructure needs that we have for basic public health and safety need to happen first. I ask for everyone to be patient. This was a major electrical outage. I know it's not how we're used to living. I know you're used to having your Cox cable on and your internet, but the more patient we can be and the more we let Entergy be able to do the job that they're working hard at right now, let's let them do that before we clog up our lines on when is my energy going to be turned on, okay? So let's let them do their best job that they can. So most of the hospitals, I'm told, are back on regular energy. They were all on generator power, and most of our hospitals are on energy. We have concerns about our sewer station. So when you go into your home, water is fine, but when you go into your home and you take a shower or you do laundry, all of that wastewater that leaves your house needs to travel to our treatment plants via lift stations. We have 500 lift stations throughout the parish that are powered by energy. We do not have backup fuel service for all of those lift stations. We enlisted our emergency contract to bring out both the backup, the diesel pumps, as well as 18-wheeler trucks to come out and actually physically push that matter through. If you don't have to do your laundry, we want you to just engage in your basic services to produce the least amount of wastewater out of your home. Go to the bathroom. Don't do your laundry right now, okay? It's those kind of decisions we need to make so we avoid backups, because the longer the electricity is out and the more days we're out, now we're going to start seeing other problems with backup sewer, and we don't want that to happen. Obviously, that's going to be a health hazard for us. So please, please go to the bathroom, but produce the minimum amount of wastewater from your home as possible. We also have activated our traffic signals contract for both the signals, as well as we have teams putting out stop signs. Again, as the governor said, and we all shared this concern with all of our roads and our trees, we don't need to have vehicle accidents because of people not stopping. So treat every intersection as a four-way stop. The other issue we're hearing from our hospitals is that people are going in with their oxygen tanks. The backup battery only lasts for about 12 hours, and now, of course, that's expiring. We don't want people in the hospital who don't need medical issues to be resolved just because they can plug in. So we are opening Johnny Jacobs Playground in Marrero, Cleary Playground in Metairie, and fire stations, Section 13 on Airline, that's not far from the Sam's Club, Station 15 on the I-10 Service Road, and Station 20 on Hudson Street as the 3 fire stations on the East Bank. We have Station 79 at 9 Mile Point on the West Bank Expressway, Station 85 in Marrero Estelle on Barataria Boulevard, and Station 51 in Tarrytown on Heritage. If you need to plug in and you need your oxygen tank and you need electricity for that, please visit one of those stations as well as those 2 playgrounds. As well as we have people, if you're going to put out debris in front of your yard, remember this is not going to be your regular garbage truck picking up that debris. This is a special contract for storm debris collection. They will not go onto your property. You need to put it on the right-of-way, but don't be surprised if your regular garbage is picked up but the debris is left. We have a special storm debris contractor. Obviously, we want to do one sweep and get it through. That's as efficient as possible, so you can be careful, because now at the hospitals we don't need people who are climbing on ladders trying to trim trees and hurting eyes and hurting limbs. Be very careful, but the small limbs that you can pick up and start gathering on your right-of-way, you can go ahead and do that as well. And I encourage everyone to please stay updated on jeffparish.net, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for any text alerts for Jefferson Parish, please text alert, JP Alert, one word, JP Alert, to 888-777, or for our Spanish-speaking people, JP Noticias to 888-777. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Governor and Congressman, for being here with us, and of course, my brother and sister who joined me, and we're always in close communication pre-disaster and absolutely as it relates to post-disaster. Much of what you've heard, absolutely, we did have Hurricane Zeta come through the eye, came over the city of New Orleans. Hurricane force winds just 1 mile from being a Category 3. So we sustained the highest level in terms of a Category 2 hurricane in the city of New Orleans, and of course that impacted multiple parishes throughout the state of Louisiana. As of last night, we had over 175 outages throughout the city. As of right now, we have about 125,000 that are still out. It is definitely the biggest impact as it relates to the city, in addition to our urban canopy, meaning our trees throughout the city. We know over 750 down, but again, as the governor indicated, assessments are ongoing. That's happening right now. The city of New Orleans will have a press avail right at 3:15 this afternoon. My department leads in terms of sanitation, DPW, park and parkways, as well as Entergy will join us to give you updates based on the assessments that are ongoing right now. The impacts of the power outages have definitely impacted as it relates to our sewer system. On last night, the Sewage and Water Board, with the alternative power sources that were on hand, in addition to Turbine 6, was able to address our sewer system. However, we're still feeling the impacts right now, but as we're moving through it, it is definitely something that gives us great concern if we continue to see sustained power outages. But for right now, we're being able to manage and, of course, pumping sewer as needed. Our residents are encouraged to call 311 to report any non-life-threatening issues. This is very important. You can also report at NOLA.gov/311. The City of New Orleans has created a crisis cleanup hotline. The number is 504-350-0788. This hotline you can go to, again, to request help with cleanup, particularly as it relates to blue tarps is a request that we've been getting from residents with roof damage. So with this, we suffered a hurricane, Category 2, at its highest, 1 mile from a Category 3. So the impacts are real, and just asking for your patience as we move through the cleanup that is necessary, and of course the power outages that definitely have an impact on our people right now. We understand that. You've heard President Lee Shane, you've heard from Governor Bel Edwards talk about traffic signals also being impacted, of course, by outages. We've had accidents throughout the city of New Orleans. Again, if you don't have a flashing light, it doesn't mean you just go right through the intersection. We do have the Department of Public Works putting up four-way stop signs in key and in important intersections throughout the city. But again, we can't put stop signs up at every intersection in the city. So please bear with us, have patience, and we will get through this. The good news is that we've come through. Did lose a life in Orleans Parish. Thank you so much, Governor, for expressing your condolences. And I know that means a lot to the family. I just want to thank hard-working men and women, Park and Parkways, Sanitation, DPW, Sewage and Water Board, for doing what you do best. So with that, I'm going to back up, have President Cooper come up and give you a little bit more information.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of St. Tammany Parish, I want to thank Governor Edwards and his team for his support before, during, and after this event, and particularly for the 6 events that preceded this that put St. Tammany Parish in the cone of uncertainty. We experienced much of the same that has been expressed already. We've had down power lines, down power poles, down trees that has put power out, power outages. As of last night, we had over 80,000 customers without power. At this time, we're down to about 67,000 customers without power. Our Public Works Department this morning immediately deployed chainsaws and equipment to remove trees, down trees from our local roadways for the benefit of our citizens to be able to get out and for the benefit of emergency vehicles as well. They're working strenuously to continue removing trees throughout the day until this task is completed. With regard to our local power agencies, Entergy, CLECO, and Washington St. Tammany Electric, they too are working tirelessly to reestablish services to our citizens. Before the storm, CLECO, our largest power provider, had pre-positioned assets at North Shore Square and Pelican Park in order to be able to immediately mobilize today after the storm. We have utility companies from other jurisdictions that are assisting, and our citizens may not see all CLECO trucks. They may see trucks of different colors and with men with different colored hard hats out working to get power restored. I can assure you that they have identified the transmission lines and the distribution lines that have been affected, and they are working strategically to get power restored to our citizens. I also want, and I ask our citizens to be patient during this time. They have indicated that, of course, it's not going to be a matter of hours or a matter of a day. It may be several days before power is restored across our entire parish. So I ask, again, our citizens to be patient and understanding of this fact that we continue to work for that to get power restored. Also want to indicate that St. Tammany Parish schools, public schools, will be closed again tomorrow. They have indicated that due to the power outages and other situations that schools will not be held tomorrow. Our offices at Coop Drive, St. Tammany Parish government offices, will be open tomorrow. We ask our employees to come back. We've been working remotely to serve our citizens during this time, but we'll be back at the office tomorrow to continue to serve our citizens. Also stress the importance of safety, while you're driving out on the highways with the traffic signals not operating properly. Just taking all safety precautions that have been expressed earlier. So again, on behalf of St. Tammany Parish, I ask our citizens to be patient and understanding. We will keep you apprised as matters and conditions warrant, and we ask that you continue to listen to our media alerts, and our next press conference will be tomorrow with further updates. So thank you very much.
Hey, this morning so far we've been to Terrebonne Parish, Lafourche, and have met with officials from those parishes in addition to Jefferson, Orleans, St. Bernard, and St. Tammany and Plaquemines Parish. This is an extraordinary storm, and while the mayor did indicate it was a Category 2 storm as identified by the National Weather Service, there were folks that measured wind gusts in excess of 135 miles an hour, which would put this well into Category 3. This was a big storm. We know that there are hundreds of thousands of people without electricity, without internet access, and other utility issues. The good news is that there are thousands of workers in from out of state that are assisting Entergy, CLECO, Cox, and others to help to restore the utilities, and we're going to continue working and pushing to get many, many more in until everyone's power is restored. This event was largely a wind event. This would have been much, much worse had it not been for all of the billions of dollars that have been invested in levees, flood protection systems, pump stations, and restoring our coast. So this could have been a big water event as well, and thankfully that was prevented. When you look at what happened at the storms in Southwest Louisiana, Hurricane Delta and Hurricane Laura, virtually all of the deaths happened after the storm had passed, and the death here in New Orleans was similar to that, and then it happened after the storm. I just want to urge everyone, whether you're driving down trees, no traffic signals, down power lines, standing water generators, there are a lot of safety issues that everyone needs to keep in mind and be very careful to not add to the additional stress and challenges associated with the disaster. We're all committed to work together. We're going to be working until everything is put back together, everyone's homes are put back together, and utility is restored. Lastly, I just want to say on behalf of Congressman Richmond, Congressman Scalise, and of course our senators, we are committed to ensure that all the FEMA resources, Corps of Engineer resources, Small Business Administration resources are brought to the table to help with the recovery efforts, and of course that includes the backdrop of the coronavirus pandemic. So with that, I just want to urge everyone to stay positive and test negative.
Thank you, Congressman. And with that, we're going to take a few questions. As I mentioned, I still have to get to Grand Isle this afternoon, and I promised the president of Jefferson Parish I'd have her back for her own news conference. So we're going to be leaving in just a few minutes, but we'll take a couple of questions if you have them.
Just based on the damage that you've seen throughout the state, would you say flooding has been a major concern anywhere? And then also, where would you say that you've seen the most damage in the state?
Yeah, so flooding was not a big issue with this storm, except right along the coast. All the levees performed exceptionally well, except for the Burrito levee on the front or the Gulf side of Grand Isle. There was some water that breached that levee in 3 locations. However, very quickly after the storm passed, most of that water went back out. So even on Grand Isle, they didn't have the flooding that would have been expected from a storm of this strength, partly because that storm moved through so quickly. But there is tremendous wind damage. And quite frankly, we're going to leave here. I haven't been to Grand Isle yet, but we know that there's damage to structures there, not just to the utility poles and to the power lines and so forth, but to homes, to businesses. Entire roofs were blown off and so forth. So we know that there in Lafitte, Plaquemines Parish, and St. Bernard, that eastern side, and by the way, the meteorologist told us yesterday that this storm was almost certain to be much stronger in the eye wall and then going out towards the east, and that proved to be the case. And so we're going to see tremendous damage at Grand Isle today, and we'll be seeing firsthand that damage again tomorrow in Plaquemines and in St. Bernard. But significant damage out there, and our heart breaks because this has been a tough year. And we've been fighting a COVID public health emergency since March. We've had so many named storms that have come through Louisiana, and to do that on the, almost at Halloween. And by the way, there's another system out in the Caribbean as we speak. We're not especially worried about it yet, but let's pray it away. And let's don't pray it on to anybody else. Let's just pray it away from us, and hopefully we won't have to deal with that. These old ears spent some time in the Army. They don't hear so well, but I think the question dealt with the timeline from the energy and CLECO and other electric service providers is for the restoration of power. I have not received timelines, and typically the way this happens, they spend the very first day after the storm assessing the damage, and right now they're coming up with their timelines for power restoration, and they're going to give those timelines something like this. They're going to say within 5 days, 90%, or something like, and so I'm expecting for them to say that. The good news from our perspective, from what I've seen, but also in talking to these parish presidents and also to President McGinnis, is we don't see the major damage, catastrophic damage to our transmission lines. So we still have Cameron Parish without electricity for the most part all these weeks after Hurricane Laura. And that's because we had transmission towers, hundreds of these very tall steel towers that were damaged or destroyed that had to be replaced. We're not talking about that kind of damage here. So principally it's to the distribution system. Those poles are easier to repair and to replace if necessary, and typically the power will come back on quicker. But I'm just not able to give you a better timeline on that. But the good news is the Public Service Commission is working with Entergy New Orleans, CLECO, and the other providers to make that happen just as soon as possible. And between now and when all power is restored, they are focusing on essential infrastructure, which includes all of the normal things like hospitals, nursing homes, water systems, sewer systems. first responders, but also polling locations. And so that's a big wrinkle that we haven't had to deal with in the past.
When it comes to the election less than a week away, do you plan to use any executive action if power outages do last longer than expected at polling locations to extend hours at the locations or open
Yeah.
more locations?
Well, I'll be conferring with the Secretary of State, and we will know more within the next day or so about what we can expect, what changes we have to make. And if he asks or we see that it's necessary, we can possibly do that. There's a very elaborate statutory scheme for emergency plans during elections, and they have to be recommended by the Secretary of State, agreed to by the legislature and me. It's very hard to make those changes within the time that we have left. But if there adjustments have to be made with respect to temporary polling locations, or maybe the consolidation of multiple polling locations in one large venue in order to help out, then I expect that we will be moving in that direction sooner than later, because the hard part here is you have to make the decision early enough to communicate the changes to the voters so that they are not deprived of the opportunity to cast that vote on Tuesday, on Election Day. So I don't have any specific answers for you there, but I will continue to communicate with the Secretary of State. We'll make whatever adjustments need to be made that are consistent with law. And right now, it's just too early for me to tell you. And I am aware that it's Thursday afternoon and the election is on Tuesday. But it was just last night that the hurricane came through. So we'll be continuing to work on that.
What should voters do if they arrive to the location that's closed?
Well, all the voters out there who plan to vote on Election Day, if you know that you live in an area and you don't have power or there's not electricity at your polling location, you really need to be listening to your local elected officials, principally your clerks of court, registrar of voters, and then there will be information coming from the Secretary of State's office as well. And again, it's going to be our goal to get that information out to you well in advance of Tuesday, if in fact you're going to be casting a vote somewhere other than your ordinary and customary polling location. So we'd encourage you to do that. In the meantime, everybody please stay safe. Remember that we are in a COVID environment, and so being a good neighbor means doing all the things you would typically do after a hurricane, but doing it with a mask on and from 6 feet apart if that's at all possible. So thank you so much, and we will be talking to you all again soon, and thank you for your continued coverage of this hurricane and of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Y'all be careful.